My wife's lover sent me a photo of them in my bed with the text, "This is her man now." I replied, "You can have her. You can have the bed too." Then I sent him the bill for the bed, the mattress, and the overdue rent for the apartment they were both about to be evicted from. I'm a businessman. My world revolves around assets, liabilities, and return on investment. For the last 5 years, I considered my marriage to my wife Jenna to be my most valuable asset. I invested in it heavily. I was wrong. It turned out to be a liability, and a deeply mismanaged one at that. I received the notice of default last Tuesday. It didn't come from a bank or a lawyer. It came via a text message from an unknown number. The message contained a single photograph. It was a picture of Jenna, my wife, lying in my bed, wrapped in my sheets, with a smug, shirtless man beside her. His arm was draped possessively over her. She was smiling at him, a look of adoration on her face I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Beneath the photo was a simple, 5-word text. "This is her man now." I stared at my phone for a long time. I didn't feel a hot rush of rage or a cold wave of heartbreak. What I felt was a quiet, analytical clarity. It was the same feeling I get when a key investment turns sour. The emotional part is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is assessing the damage and liquidating the asset before it becomes a total loss. Let me provide some crucial context. I own a successful logistics company. I work hard and I've done very well for myself. Jenna, on the other hand, is an artist. 2 years ago, she decided she wanted to quit her stable marketing job to pursue her passion for painting full-time. I wanted to be a supportive husband, so I made an investment in her dream. I set her up in a beautiful loft apartment in the city's arts district, a space that could double as her studio. I paid for it. The lease is in my company's name. I also furnished the entire place, from the high-end kitchen appliances to the expensive oak bed frame and luxury mattress that her new man was currently defiling. I have my own primary residence, but this loft was her kingdom, funded by my empire. For the past few months, she had been distant. She claimed the pressure of her art was consuming her. She also claimed she was having trouble making her small token contribution to the rent and had asked me to cover it completely for the last 2 months, promising to pay me back. She was building a narrative of the struggling artist. The photo on my phone told me what she was really building. The man in the photo, Kyle, sent the text to wound me, to assert his dominance. It was a profound tactical error. He thought he was showing me that he had taken my wife. What he actually did was show me exactly where my leverage was. They weren't just in a bed, they were in my bed, in my apartment. An apartment with 2 months of overdue rent. I picked up my phone, I typed out a reply to the unknown number. "You can have her. You can have the bed too." Then I blocked the number and got to work. My first task was to create an invoice. I'm a business owner. I live and breathe invoices. I opened a template and began itemizing. 1 Scandinavian oak king bed frame, $3,500. 1 luxury hybrid mattress, king size, $4,000. 2 months overdue rent, loft apt number 4B, $8,000. Associated late fees as per lease agreement, $500. Total liabilities transferred, $16,000. I saved it as a PDF. A quick search of Jenna's social media gave me Kyle's full name and the name of the tech startup where he worked. A few minutes on their website gave me his corporate email address. I drafted a new email to kyle.richards@techsource.com. Subject: congratulations on your new acquisition and associated liabilities. Dear Mr. Richards, I wrote, it has come to my attention that you have recently taken possession of my wife Jenna. As per the attached photo, you have also taken possession of my bed. Congratulations on these acquisitions. Please find attached an itemized invoice for the property and outstanding debts associated with your new partner. I wish you the best of luck in settling these liabilities. Sincerely, Michael Sterling. I attached the PDF and hit send. Then I forwarded a copy to Kyle's Instagram direct messages for good measure. That was the symbolic gesture. The next part was the practical application of force. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the property management company that oversees the loft building. It was time to call in the debt and begin the eviction. They thought they had taken my queen. They were about to find out they were just 2 pawns in a game they had already lost. Update 1. The wheels of consequence turn slowly at first, but once they gain momentum, they are impossible to stop. My first move after sending the invoice was to formally notify the loft's property management company. I spoke with the head manager, a man I've had a professional relationship with for years. "Robert," I said, "it's Mike Sterling. I'm calling about Unit 4B. I am giving you my official 30-day notice to terminate my company's lease on that apartment." "Everything okay, Mike?" he asked. "Just making some changes to my portfolio," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Furthermore, I need to inform you that I will not be covering the outstanding rent for the past 2 months, nor any future rent. The occupant, Jenna Sterling, is no longer my financial responsibility. You'll need to collect from her directly or proceed with your standard eviction process." Robert, a man who has seen everything, didn't miss a beat. "Understood, Mike. I'll have a formal pay or quit notice posted on her door by the end of the day. Thanks for the heads up." And with that, the fuse was lit. For the next 24 hours, there was silence. I imagine that was the time it took for the official notice to appear on their door and for the reality of their situation to sink in. The panic began on Thursday afternoon. My phone started buzzing with a series of frantic, blocked calls. I ignored them. Then came the voicemails from Jenna. Her voice was a mixture of pure rage and high-pitched terror. "Mike, what did you do? The building manager just slapped an eviction notice on our door. They said you cut us off. Call me back right now. They're saying we owe $8,500 by Monday, or they're filing with the court. Is this a joke? And what the hell is this invoice you sent to Kyle? He's freaking out. You're trying to ruin my life." I finally decided to take her call that evening. She started screaming the second I said hello. "It's my apartment," she shrieked. "You can't just kick me out." "Let me be very clear, Jenna," I said, my voice cold and steady. "It has never been your apartment. It is a corporate asset that I allowed you to use while you were my wife. You are no longer my wife. The arrangement is terminated. The overdue rent is a debt you incurred while occupying the property. I suggest you have your new man cover it. I believe he was quite eager to take on my role. This is his first test." "He can't afford that," she cried. "You know he can't, and he says you sent him a bill for the bed." "He's furious." "Is he?" I asked, a rhetorical question. "Well, I am furious that he was sleeping in my bed with my wife. It seems we are all disappointed. You and he have a decision to make. You can either pay the back rent and attempt to qualify for a new lease on your own, or you can be evicted. As for the furniture, I expect it to be returned to me in pristine condition, or you can pay me for it. The choice is yours." Then Kyle himself called, from his own number this time. His voice was trembling with rage. "Listen to me, you psycho," he started. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I am not paying for your wife's furniture or her rent. You can't send me a bill." "I can," I replied calmly. "And I did. You sent me a photograph to announce your new position. I sent you an invoice to announce your new responsibilities. It seems fair to me. You wanted to be the man in her life, sleeping in my bed. Well, being the man comes with a price tag. The life she was living, the one you seemed so eager to be a part of, costs about $5,000 a month. That's your problem now. Welcome to the big leagues." I hung up on him. The beauty of the situation was its simplicity. I hadn't done anything emotional or illegal. I had simply withdrawn my financial support. I had turned off the tap. Their entire romantic fantasy was built on a foundation of my money, and I had just ripped that foundation out from under them. The cracks in their new relationship were already showing. He was angry at her for dragging him into a financial nightmare. She was angry at him for not being the powerful man who could solve it. The photo was meant to be a declaration of his victory. Instead, it was the trigger for a consequence that was going to cost them everything. And they had 30 days until it was all over. Update 2. The past few weeks have been an education in the anatomy of desperation. As the 30-day eviction clock ticked down, the actions of Jenna and Kyle became increasingly frantic and pathetic. My next move was a formal one. My lawyer drafted a letter and sent it to Jenna at the loft address via a process server. The letter was a simple, legally binding demand for the return of my personal property. It included a detailed, itemized list of every piece of furniture, every appliance, and every major decorative item that I had purchased for the apartment. The list was cross-referenced with credit card statements and receipts, which we attached as an appendix. The letter offered them two options. Option A, arrange for all items to be professionally moved to a storage unit, which I would pay for on the final day of their occupancy, under the supervision of a third-party agent I would hire. Option B, purchase all items from me at their current depreciated value. The price, coincidentally, was the exact amount listed on the invoice I had sent to Kyle. This letter removed any ambiguity. They couldn't sell the furniture to pay the rent. They couldn't damage it out of spite without facing legal action. They were living on borrowed time in a showroom of my assets. Jenna's response was to attempt a smear campaign. She must have realized she had no legal or financial leverage, so she resorted to trying to damage my reputation. She told all of our mutual friends a sob story about how her cruel, vindictive husband had cut her off and was trying to make her homeless, all because she had found new happiness. It didn't work the way she planned. A few of our friends, the ones who had been to the loft, the ones who knew about her struggling artist lifestyle, started to ask questions. One of them called me directly. "Jenna is saying you're throwing her out on the street," she said. "What's going on?" I was honest. "I am declining to continue paying $5,000 a month for my wife to live in a luxury apartment with her new boyfriend," I said. "The man who sent me a picture of them together in the bed I paid for. I don't think that's unreasonable." The story, the real one, started to spread. The sympathy for her began to dry up when people realized she wasn't a victim. She was just an adulterer who had lost her benefactor. Their final, desperate move was to attack my business. They created a series of fake online profiles and began posting scathing one-star reviews for my logistics company. The reviews were full of lies about lost shipments, rude staff, and unethical billing practices. It was a clumsy, transparent attempt to inflict financial damage. They underestimated me. I am not a tech mogul, but I run a modern company. We have tools. We have a digital marketing team. It took my analyst less than a day to trace the fake reviews. They were all coming from a small cluster of IP addresses linked to the public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop near the loft. Furthermore, the linguistic patterns in the reviews were nearly identical. It was obviously the work of one or two people. My lawyer sent a second cease and desist letter, this time to both Jenna and Kyle. It was much harsher than the first. It included screenshots of the defamatory reviews. It explained the legal definition of libel and tortious interference with business. It stated that we had already documented the evidence, and that, if even one more negative, fraudulent review appeared, I would be filing a civil lawsuit seeking significant damages for the harm to my company's reputation. The fake reviews vanished within an hour. It was their last gasp. They were out of moves, out of time, and out of options. The day of the eviction was fast approaching. Final update: it has been 2 months since this whole ordeal began. The 30-day notice period has expired. The eviction is complete. The consequences have been delivered in full. On the final day of the lease, as per the legal agreement, I had a professional moving crew and a court-appointed civil standby officer meet me at the loft. Jenna and Kyle were there, surrounded by cardboard boxes filled with their clothes and personal junk. The apartment was otherwise empty of their presence, but full of my property. They were not allowed to interfere. They just had to stand there and watch as my movers, with practiced efficiency, dismantled the life they had tried to steal. They watched as the king-sized oak bed, the bed, was taken apart and wrapped in moving blankets. They watched as the leather sofa, the dining room table, the big screen television, and all the art from the walls was carefully moved out and loaded onto a truck. The look on their faces was one of profound, abject defeat. Their romantic playground was being disassembled before their very eyes. They were left standing in a big, empty room that smelled like broken dreams, holding a few boxes of clothes. The sheriff's officer then formally escorted them from the property for the last time. The locks were changed, the chapter was closed. The aftermath of their short-lived romance was, from what I've heard, brutal. The pressure of the eviction, the lack of money, and the constant stress completely destroyed them. They had nothing in common once the glamour was gone. He blamed her for dragging him into a financial and legal disaster. She blamed him for not being the high-flying man he pretended to be, the man who could have saved her. The last report from the grapevine was that they had a massive, screaming fight in the hallway of the loft building while moving their last few boxes out. Kyle apparently just got in his car and drove away, leaving her there on the curb. Kyle's professional life is in shambles. My lawyer's letter threatening a lawsuit was also, as a professional courtesy, copied to the CEO of his company. I'm not sure what happened internally, but Kyle's name is no longer on the company's website. His attempt to play hardball cost him dearly. Jenna's fate was even more predictable. With no apartment, no money, no successful husband, and no new boyfriend, she had only one place to go. She had to make the humiliating call to her parents and move back into her childhood bedroom in another state. Her grand dream of being a sophisticated city artist, funded by me, ended in complete and total failure. I never sent another bill. I didn't need to. The invoice wasn't about the money. It was a statement of intent. It was me telling them, everything has a price. They thought they could have a life of luxury and passion with no cost. I just showed them the bill. The photo Kyle sent was meant to be his trophy, a symbol of his conquest. But he made a fatal business error. He revealed his position without understanding his opponent's assets. He and Jenna saw me as the man to be betrayed, not the man who owned the entire board they were playing on. They thought they could take my wife and live in my world. I simply took my world back. And them with it.